Welcome to the podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time, a CastSource family production. In this episode, we discuss youth development in baseball, social media for kids, and running a multifaceted business. Our guest today is Steve McGuiggan. Steve is an owner and director of baseball operations for Minnesota MASH Baseball Club. In 2017, Steve was given one of the highest honors in youth sports when being named a Minnesota Chapter Coach of the Year by the Positive Coaching Alliance. This award was given to only 150 youth coaches throughout the country. Steve is involved in all aspects of MASH, including all baseball activities as well as athlete performance. You will hear Steve and I discuss these 5 topics: youth development in baseball, social media, running a multifaceted business, the future of baseball, and the importance of practice. And then get ready for a wave of rapid-fire questions. All right, let's bring Steve into the game. Steve, welcome to the Entrepreneur Perspectives podcast. It's great to have you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so we want to get going right away. So tell us, how did MASH come to be?
Wow, this is going to be good. This is going to be very reflective for me. So in 2012, I was actually playing in the Frontier League, which is like an independent league baseball. I was kind of lost in life, honestly. I identified myself as a baseball player, and so I was kind of grasping at straws to continue to play baseball, and went out there and kind of knew that this might not work out like I want it to. And while I was out there, I got a call from my cousin asking me about a guy named Tom Buski, who is now the co-owner. We co-own MASH together. And he said, "What do you know about this guy for lessons?" And I called him because we went to the same high school together. I asked him what he was doing, and I jokingly said, "Hey, I might be back in about 2 weeks because I'm not feeling too good with my swing." Could continue to go 0 for 14. In the rest of my career there, they released me. I drove back and we met, and he said, "You want to do this thing?" And we literally just started it with like 20, 12-year-old kids that were from the town that we kind of grew up in, and ran them through practices and controlled scrimmages. And that turned into something just really big and huge that we all love to do every day now. So at MASH now we have a 20,000 square foot facility just outside the Twin Cities. We have 9 full-time employees, and we work year-round coaching baseball. We have an 8,000 foot strength room, and just a very cool community of people looking to get better.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome because, yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I'm saying that's kind of my elevator pitch on what MASH is. When you called me earlier, I told you I tend to ramble. I get really passionate about what we do because I love the people here and I love the people who work here as well.
Well, that's obvious, right? It comes out right away, and for you to be like in that position where you weren't happy with where your life was at and what you were doing and your game of baseball, let's say, and then you turn that around and, the call comes kind of out of nowhere maybe, and you give it a shot.
Yeah, it was definitely out of nowhere.
Yeah, and so then you have that out of nowhere conversation because you really don't know when things are going to turn good or worse, right? It goes all different directions, but then you get out in the field, when you're out there and you're running that controlled scrimmage and you're doing what you do and you're helping people out, did you know at that moment you're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need to be doing. I'm having so much fun.
100%. And that's something that I know when you're playing, it's really hard to hear that. And obviously if I go back and someone said, "Hey, you could play in the big leagues," I would 100% say yes. But when you start coaching, serving others and seeing that click moment and seeing them just be successful, you wake up every day and you're focused on others. You're not focused about, did I get a hit? What do I need to do? When you're playing, it's just internally such a selfish mentality, where when you're coaching, it is a serving mentality. And I've seen that has translated into the rest of my life. And so I'm living a much happier life thanks to that transition of really serving others. Has served me better than anything.
That's amazing. It's interesting because I always say, like, if you're having a bad day, go help somebody else. Like, even if it's the person in your office next to you or if it's a family member, right? But I think there's just such a big part of that. Like, when I had kids, when I realized, like, I couldn't focus on myself anymore, I had to focus on my kids. And then all of a sudden, it, like, takes all your stresses away. Yeah, there's new stresses, don't get me wrong. Like, now their problems become your problems. So I would imagine, like, when you have a player show up and you're like, man, I can't hit the ball anymore. I can't do this. I can't do anything. That becomes your problem now. So it's like, it is good, but now you have everybody else's problems on your hand, right? Is that like something you deal with?
Yeah, all the time. And the other thing is not just that, it's beyond baseball. The way that we set everything up is these guys are able to come in, 6-7 hours at a time if they want to. They can stay around, they can jump in an open cage. And when you're around kids that much, our coaches, I love our coaches because they work basically 24/7. They're so accessible to kids that we get reached out to a lot just about girlfriend issues or, issues at home or stuff that they're looking to do or advice on what should I do after college, that continuing relationship after kids leave the club from high school and come back. It's a 24/7 job. And I know that I talked to you about that earlier with social media, is that everyone's portrayed as having a perfect life, and that's very hard for young kids to understand and deal with. So that's another thing that we have passionately tried to help our kids with.
That's huge. You're becoming their counselor almost in a way. And like you said, there's life outside of baseball, but it all impacts, right? Because if you talk about alignment in your life, all of these things relate to one another. So, it's huge that you're able to help them. We were just having a conversation with a sports counselor, right? And he helps people with their mental health aspect. He's a former athlete himself, but now he's handling the mental health aspects. And he coaches actually soccer. He coaches a high school soccer team in Chicago. And he's talking about that. So, no, we completely understand the importance of not just doing it from a, proper fundamentals in your baseball swing or throwing, motion and all that kind of stuff. So it's everything that goes with it. So that's pretty amazing. So what does the player development process look like with when a player comes to MASH, and what's your favorite part about watching these young athletes learn and grow?
That's a great question. Kids come in and usually we take them just through an evaluation, which will just be, hey, what do you do? What's your swing like? Let's take you through some ground balls, some pitching. And then we'll sit down with them and the family and just kind of suggest, hey, based on what your schedule is, with you playing multiple sports, here's what we would do. So our schedule is really flexible, designed for kids to play, up here, hockey, wrestling, and even basketball in the winter is huge, which is when we're doing our off-season training. So our schedule is set up for them to come in from 2:45 to 10 throughout the week, and then pretty much 9 to 5 on weekends, and able to work around their schedule so they can come in around those teams to continue to play multiple sports. And we'll say, hey, based on the fact that you have hockey, I think you should only be in 5 times a month. If it's a kid who says, hey, I don't play any other sports, 12 times a month, I think that your throwing mechanics are the number one thing that you can work on. Let's get you in a pitching program. So everyone's a little bit different. And then we also offer free assessments for all of our athletes to go through with our strength and conditioning staff. That just kind of teaches you some areas that you can focus on where your high school strength to continue to improve. And that just allows for people to be flexible in their schedule, especially with kids. Like, if they're not prepared to come in every day, or if they don't want to be here every day, the longevity of that relationship is not going to go well. If you force the kid to come in 12 times a month, he's going to be here for a year instead of a kid who, hey, you know what, maybe 5 is the right number for you. Maybe he's here and we develop a relationship over 8 to 10 years. So every kid needs to be sat down with their parents, explained our culture and what we believe in, and then that allows for them to make a smart decision on the right amount of time to be involved in that culture.
Right. So it's no different than you having a passion for what you do and showing up every day. That someone might not love it as much, but they have to have some sort of passion to want to show up there on a daily basis, or they're not going to fit what you're trying to accomplish, which I think is great because, we can't be all things to all people. But if you're saying, hey, if you fit these things and you want to accomplish then we become the place for you. And you're being upfront and honest with that, with not only the players, but the parents, if they're involved with it as well, right? So, I mean, it's a total team effort, if you will.
Well, yeah, and from the relationship side, it's great. And then from like a business side, like people aren't used to that. People aren't used to you just being like, hey, I'm not going to tell you. You tell me, what's your schedule like? What are you looking at? What do you want to accomplish over the next 2 years? Having them tell you and then saying, okay, that sounds perfect. People are allowed to cancel memberships in here and say, hey, I'm going to move on. I'm going into this part of my season. I want to move down in membership. Our strength coaches, when they meet with kids, all our strength programs are individualized. And I know that that's another word like entrepreneurship, but they truly are individualized by our strength staff. They're incredible. And they say, hey, if I'm going to do this, you tell me how often you're going to be in here. Our kids have the opportunity if they want to use the gym 7 days a week. But from a programming standpoint, if you think 2 times a week is good for you, let's do 2. And let's be incredible at going 2 times a week. Let's eliminate our 2 days. And that attitude and that mindset and just being realistic with guys instead of saying, you have to be here 5 times a week, even though you're on National Honor Society, you got the ACT coming up, you got 2 sisters, you want to go to their games, you play another sport, and you have to be here 5 times a week. It's just unrealistic. So allowing them to be successful has made it a great place to be because that every time they're coming in, they're dialed in and they're ready to go.
Yeah, so when you see the development, so now you've developed a player, you've seen some growth, whether it's they've become a great player, you just certain attributes are starting to show, and you can see it's as a result of the work that you and your staff are doing. What is that like for you? I mean, we can already tell like how excited you are about like being in this business and what you do on a daily basis. But when you see it like the light go on, is that like the best moment ever for you?
It is. It is. I mean, they say all the time, if you're gonna choose something to do for a living, don't be chasing the gold. If you're doing something to chase the gold or the money, it's not going to work out for you. At the end of the day, if you ask anybody about why they're successful in the field they're doing, they're going to talk about their job, what they do, helping a kid, seeing him grow, having them sign at a college, having them call you to say, hey, this is, the opportunity I've gotten at the next level. That's what makes it go. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all on the mouth. So we got to enjoy the things that we're doing and the time that we're spending with people. And when kids especially are able to come out of their comfort zone and develop a relationship with all of our coaches, it is literally what keeps us coming back to stare at a computer and answer emails. Because, eventually you're going to go get to do the fun stuff. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, that's part of it. So you're running a business and you are the entrepreneur with your partner and everyone there. And there's work you have to do. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? There's actual like things you got to get down and dirty with and invoicing and who knows what else you have to do on a daily basis there. But it's all for let's say the greater good. It's all so you can help that player out, so you can go and get back to doing, like you call it, the fun stuff and working on a sport that you just are so passionate about, and that I'm assuming that keeps you going just like it keeps us going, right? Like the little things are just part of the process, and if you find the fun in it and find the process enjoyable, then that's the amazing thing. I was just listening to a podcast actually with Kobe Bryant was being interviewed by Cal Fussman, and Cal Fussman does these incredible interviews, and he's talking to Kobe, and Kobe's like all-time great basketball player, right? But what he's talking about is you have to enjoy the process of it. If you don't enjoy the process, you're going to end up hating it at some point, which is you've kind of been.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, what you've been saying.
Yeah, you'll get eaten alive. I mean, no matter how good of a product you have or how much you care, it's just not possible that everybody's going to be happy with what you're doing. There's just no way. So understanding that, treating those people well, answering their questions, and just saying that this is part of it. It's not going to be all glitz and glamour. And I think for us this year, starting a business, the first 6 years was all about, okay, what do we do? How does this work? I mean, I was a communications major. I was a true college athlete. I got a communications major, and I thought I was going to play in the big leagues. So when I got out of school, it was like, all right, what do I do now? I guess I'll coach baseball, and I know that. We didn't know how to run a business. So this year, we spent a lot of time just on giving people specific roles and making sure that all of us understand exactly what we're supposed to do. Goal setting has become a huge part of what we're doing. We joke all the time that we're starting to become an actual business instead of a bunch of guys just running around hoping things are going to work out well.
Yeah.
Which has been good. It's the stress levels have gone down, our efficiency has gone up. I think understanding our roles as a unit, that's been the cool part for me now in the transition is you have 9 people on staff. Like everyone who's here has decided, you know what, I'm going to choose this to do it for a living. They're full-time coaches. This is how they put food on the table. And it's easy when it's just 1 or 2 guys going, hey, let's try to start this up, and you're 23. And now I'm 29 years old. These guys are, 23. Our head strength coach is 33. And he listens to this. If I'm wrong on that, he's going to kill me. But, we're starting to get to that point now where we got to know what we're doing.
Yeah.
It can't just be all about fun. So that transition as a human and an adult has been a fun experience for me.
Yeah, and all you're doing is you're getting better. You're putting a team together, and you're getting better every day, just a little bit every day, right? And then you refine what you've done. And that's all anybody's doing. I mean, I don't care if it's a startup company to a company that's been in business for many years. They're all trying to figure out a way to be better. Apple's trying to make a better iPhone, right? They're one of the largest companies in the world, and they're still trying to get better. You're building the business from the ground up, and you're refining it and changing and learning as you go. And that's the fun part about it. That's why we love talking to entrepreneurs, because they just have this energy about them. And if they didn't, they wouldn't be an entrepreneur. So it's like and we've discussed this offline too. Is anyone can call themselves an entrepreneur? Anyone can call themselves a fitness trainer. Anyone can call themselves not anyone. You certain businesses you do need licenses in. But, there's so much of that going around, so it waters down it, and everyone's like, yeah, so I heard that every day, that this person does this and this person does that. You kind of have to overcome it. No different than like, hey, I know how to coach baseball. I've done this before. I can train your kid where, they've seen it before. I mean, I've had kids who played baseball, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So 2/3 of it's not good. How do you overcome that when someone shows up and be like, man, I've heard this story before. I've seen people like you before. How do they know it's different?
I always tell them, and I say, hey, this is how we do things here. We know what we do. And I think that people really respect a genuine answer. This is the example I'll use. And I told you I tend to ramble sometimes. I'm sorry about that. But as part of our hitters program, we told the guys that they just need to sign in when they work out. The goal is to get 24. The minimum was to have 24 workouts, which would be 3 times a week at this time in the program. And I said, print it off, look at it, and our kids work very hard. I love them to death. But not one of them got to 24 signings. Now, I'm sure some of them were at 35, 40 workouts, but not one of them got to 24 signings. I say, you guys, if one of you would have done the bare minimum of what you were agreed to do, you would have stood out amongst your peers. And so when people come in and they say, what do you guys do? I just say, we are who we are. Like, ask the people who have been a part of our club, talk to them, because I can tell you whatever about how great we are, how awesome our staff is, our new facility. But at the end of the day, the word of mouth is going to be the number one way that you can tell. So I refer new people to say, call our clients, stay in here for a couple hours, feel the energy in here, talk to the people walking around, ask them, because it's like being on a recruiting visit for baseball. I'm not going to go on a recruiting visit for baseball and they're going to say, hey, this area here is pretty crappy. I don't know, this area can improve. They're going to show you the best highlights. So ask the players of the team, hey, what's this really like? What's the coach like? How does this work? What's the life like on campus? Your members are the number one priority, because they're going to be the ones who are going to get people in the door.
Yeah. No, and you're using a proof of concept, right? Referrals, recommendations of any sort. People have done it, And it's proof of concept. And we do it in our business, and I recommend any business do it. It's hard at the beginning because you don't have a lot of proof of concept, right? You need to get somebody to buy in, and those people are gold because they're the ones that gave you your first opportunity, and you always remember that. But then once you start building up on those people and those clients and those relationships that you have, now other people get to see you did it for that person. Now come do it. Now I want you to do that for me. And all of a sudden it just grows, which is what I'm seeing that's going on with your business, right? You had the proof of concept. You have the recommendations. You have the people that are your cheerleaders. They'll be like, yeah, you need to go to MASH because there's this incredible team of people that are going to help you out in more ways than just in baseball, which gets into
and that's the key.
That's the key.
That's the key is that they're saying, hey, you can go play anywhere. There's plenty of people around our area. There's clubs all over the place that do a great job of coaching baseball. They do. They know what they're doing. They do a great job. I think that our thing is the relationship that your kid's going to have with the coaching staff and what he's going to be doing in school, how he's going to be treating others. Being willing to sit down with kids when they're struggling on stuff because it's not all perfect. Is what I know all of us are most proud of that we do. And I think that that's the number one reason why people come. It's not that hard to flip a baseball forward. That's what I do 7 hours a day. So I feel comfortable saying that, anyone can flip a baseball forward. It's what kind of relationship are you developing with a very impressionable kid, ages 18 to 6 years old with our rookie kids. How do you develop a relationship with that kid so that it's above baseball? That's our mission.
Well, and so you're doing it from you have like a multifaceted approach, and at CAD Source we do the same thing. So we love seeing that, but they all align together, that's the best, right? And we try to do the same thing. So you have the baseball side of things, and then you have the performance side of things. So how do those go hand in hand, or how do you manage that on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, our strength staff is incredible. So we have 3 full-time strength coaches. Our head strength coach, Nate Stemper, has been a guy that when he started, he's been through the ringer. He went to, Lifetime. He's been at LA. He's been at small gyms. He's been at performance gyms. And he worked with Tom at a place a couple years before Tom started MASH. And Nate was looking for something new, and he started basically working for free at the age of 29. He basically just said, this is something that I want to do. I'm passionate about what I do. I know I'm good at it. And he started up in a mezzanine space in our old facility where you couldn't drop weights. You shouldn't really do anything. He wasn't set up to have success. Let's put it that way. And when you walk into the new MASH, what he and the staff, Kyle Comer and Jake Schmitz, have built in the front area, it's like our main focus now. It's 8,000 square feet. And he had done that through his relationships with all sports. So that's what makes our community really special is we have our hashtag is MASH Nation because all sports are involved here. Female athletes, male athletes, soccer, lacrosse, football, it doesn't matter. And you see these kids from all these schools in the area get into one place. And that's what makes it electric is it's not just baseball. It's a full community in there. And that's what the gym has provided. The tempo in there needs to be great. You got all-state track athletes. So there's world-renowned ice climbers that work out in our gym. And so it's fun to be in the cage and walk outside and see someone absolutely dominating the strength room. It's a very good balance between the two things and has definitely given us just an added element. In BC, especially in Minnesota, in the winter, your facility is full. But once it gets nice out, people are going to take advantage of that for as long as the sun is out. I'm outside right now, but this is the first time I've seen the sun in probably a month and a half.
Yeah.
It's gloomy here. It's cold. But when the kids go back outside, that's when the strength staff steps up and becomes, the number one part of our business. Taking kids through summer speed camps. We've been very fortunate to work with Nyack Baseball, programming for them, one of the best junior college baseball programs in the country. And then also work with, Hillbury Hockey, which is a state power here. So they do it all. It's very fun to watch them grow from basically having kettlebells and a couple sleds to a very fun gym. It's very impressive to walk in and look at.
Yeah, and you used a key word and all that. You said community, and we're big on that as well. I mean, that's where we are right now as a society. Is like you have to create conversation, and if you can open up a room, an environment to multiple different athletes and types of kids from all over the area, and where they can start communicating with one another, it becomes pretty awesome what you can do. You get new ideas in there. You encourage quality, healthy competition and all that. And then it goes into the whole other world because you're dealing with youth, and you've mentioned this earlier on when it comes to social media. And we love talking about social media, and there's a lot of good that comes from social media. There's a lot of not so good that comes from it as well. And you talked about how you help these kids dealing with social media every day, because they're coming in there and they're having to compete maybe with friends and that look like they're having the best day ever, when in reality maybe they're not, but that's the perception that they're putting on. So you're having to deal with that as well. So tell us, and what's really cool about this, even further, I'll take this one step, is on our Sportsepreneur platform, you're actually going to be doing a guest post. So this is a little bit of a sneak preview to that guest post, but if you don't mind, give us that. Yeah.
Yeah, it started social media when we were looking at it. Was our only way of marketing, really. When you're starting up, you don't have a budget. And so if you have a free way to market, that's great. And then that transitioned into following all the kids that are a part of our club. And our social media education started with the stupid things that they put on their social media. So retweeting dumb things, posting dumb things, posting incredibly personal things that they shouldn't be, and educating our kids on, here's what you should be posting. This is how it works. Let's stay away from this stuff. That's really where it started. And then our staff, like you said, we have a lot of conversations with kids, and with recruiting, it happens earlier and earlier. You see some kids signing as, freshmen, or in hockey, as 7th or 8th graders. And so people always feel behind the 8 ball now. Everyone's in a big rush. Everyone thinks that they're behind. And educating our kids on, one, playing youth athletics and high school sports is a special time. Once you leave that, things change. Stop chasing just being a collegiate athlete. That's not the end all. That's not the final, countdown. That's not the only thing that matters. Enjoy your time here. And then secondly, being active on social media. So we encourage all our kids to be active on social media. What we mean about that is, if you're looking through stuff, comment on stuff. Don't just sit there and look and compare your life to other kids' life, because you don't really know what's going on. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know how they're feeling. But if you use social media as an actual tool to connect with others, comment, be positive, see things you like, let other people know, it can be a positive thing for kids, and not just kids, me. I know I need to run our Minnesota Mouse baseball. Coach Dave, our strength coach, and we're on there all the time. So I see it. I feel it all the time of going, oh, wow, look at this person, look what they're doing. And we've made a real push around here to have kids be just more positive and, more importantly, more active when they're on social media. Don't just scroll through there and compare. Use it as a platform to talk to others and learn from others.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you're a practitioner of that, right? Because you're out there and you're doing what you're telling these kids to do, and you're watching them and you're helping them along. You're not like you're lecturing probably a little bit, but overall, like you're just trying to make it better for them, because like you said, if you say the wrong thing, that could haunt you for a long time, and don't let that, and that, who knows what that snowballs into, right? So you really have to stay on top of it. And I think that's pretty amazing that you take it to that level of like an organization. Like, this is what a Major League Baseball team would do, or organization would do, to make sure that their players are following certain guidelines, or at least understandings of the way they are expected to behave. And they have to fit in that. We talk about it in our business all the time, and John Priori, who's there, like, we talk about the culture, the energy that someone brings on a daily basis to what we are doing here. And if it's social media, that's all a part of it, because that's what someone sees. And if you're draining that energy from the building, that's the worst thing that you can have in your club, in your organization, or on an actual team, right? I mean, because this is the stuff they're going to have to do if they do end up making it somewhere, or if they end up not playing baseball, but they become a business person, or they become an entrepreneur that leads a company. You're giving them lessons, it seems like to me, that they can use in any aspect of their life.
Very, very well said. And I'm glad that that's how it came off, because that's the goal. I mean, there's two realities for these guys, is that one, social media is a thing. You can't just say get off your phone. I mean, it's part of our lives now. It just is. It's a thing. And two, your baseball career is going to end. Your football career is going to end. Your track and field career is going to end. It will end at some point. And making them be successful, we have a kid who started his own business at age 19 selling clothes. I think that's the coolest thing ever. Seeing these guys now that we're 6 years in and we're starting to get older, you see these guys grow up, and that's where you really start to understand if you're doing a good job or not with the kids. When you're around them, it's obviously a lot easier. They're impressionable. You can speak to them face to face. But after they leave and they leave the nest and they go out to school, what are they like? What are their college coaches saying about them? How do they contribute to their culture? Our first ever graduating class is going to be done this year. So our first graduating class is seniors this year, because our first year of MASH, we didn't have a senior class. And I'm very interested to see how many of those kids come back and want to coach. We've had a couple that have already come back and started coaching for us. So it's time for us to see how strong our culture really is, and the impression that our coaches truly made on these kids, to see if they want to give back to the community.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, you're building these long-term relationships, and then one day their kids will be joining your group and your program. So that's and what you're doing as well is you are saying how important practice is. So it's funny that I have 3 kids, and they've all played sports, and I've seen, like I mentioned before, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to youth sports. And a lot of times, though, I'll see that they're playing too many games versus practice. And I never understood it. I'm like, we just played 3 games and we had 1 practice in between. And if you're playing baseball, for example, how many at-bats are you actually going to get in that game? 3, 4, maybe 5 if your team's killing it. But more than less likely, you're sitting in the dugout most of the time. And if you're playing the field, I mean, how many balls actually got hit to you, depending on what position you're playing, depending if the other team can even hit. Are you the pitcher? So it's like, I was like, shouldn't we be spending more time practicing versus playing? With my son playing soccer, I'm seeing them develop that, because they're kind of catching up to other countries in soccer. So they have to practice. So I'm seeing like 3 practices to 1 game. That makes a lot more sense to me. How do you get it across to kids and parents to say, wait a second, practice is where we're going to get better. Games is we're going to, you tell me. I mean, I'm saying this. Is that right? Is that what you guys believe in? It seems to be. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that's a very passionate thing for us. I think we're on the 50-50 spectrum. We talk all the time. You can practice as many times as you want, but until you get in the game and you're actually playing the game and you're getting those instincts, and kids today really have baseball instincts. They need to be better at that. They need to understand the game a lot better. So great coaches are going to be able to take a kid in a game and use that as a, learning tool, a practicing tool for situations, for how you carry yourself in the field, for dealing with failure. That's really a great time to practice that. And then outside of that, you're looking at, what am I doing to hit? What am I doing to take ground balls? And so having like a 50-50 approach for us on, if we play 20 games, we're probably going to want to be having about 20 practices. We're going to want to combine those two to make a complete player.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's kind of how we look at it. And there's obviously times that doesn't work out. As some teams, they travel a lot. It's like a 2-month sprint to go play in tournaments. Obviously that's not an ideal setting to get those practices in. But in the fall, that's really our opportunity where we say, okay, we want to kind of have the same amount of practices to games, whether that's individual practice or team practice. They both have their place to developing that guy. And you want to play games. I mean, you're practicing to compete, and being in that competitive mindset and getting out there and competing against other people. And that's what football, when you play football, you practice against the same guys all the time, you get let loose against somebody else.
Yeah.
And it was really a competitor. So
Yeah.
finding that competitive edge, too, is an important part of developing.
No, it's good. And that's a good balance that you're explaining there. And, the other thing I think is cool is there's a lot of warm-up, right? There's a lot of warm-up in baseball. And so the 30 minutes or hour or whatever it is before the game is you can still get some work in. Maybe it's more repetition, right? But that makes a lot of sense of what you're saying. Just getting out there, getting on the fields, getting in wherever you can. You're probably telling kids just play, have fun, enjoy the game, and let it take you where it can take you. But you have to work hard at it. So, with that being said, we just had a podcast with Dean Jackson. He was part of the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, and he got injured, and he's doing a lot of analytics work for his college, and he's learning a lot about the game. And we watch baseball, and we see it there's a lot of conversation out there. Analytics are becoming big. The speed of play is becoming big. It's like a power pitching game versus home run hitting, right? Where do you see baseball going in the next, decade or so from here?
Yeah, I mean, the information right now is incredible. I was lucky enough to go to the coaches convention in Indianapolis that's held every year, where you have just speakers and coaches from all over the country go to talk about it. It's kind of like, I like to look at baseball kind of like a book. If someone spends their whole life living something, and my buddy Harvey says this all the time, it's, if someone lives their whole life and writes a book about it and they were incredibly successful and you can read that in 2 hours, you're an idiot if you're not reading it. You know what I mean? You're an idiot if you're not going to take that information. So with analytics, you have to know what's going on. You have to say, okay, I'm going to research and look at this. I'm going to look at exit velocity. What's rap through? What's hit man? What's hit tracks? There's so many different opportunities for people to learn and grow that I think if you're not willing to jump on board and at least understand it, you're probably going to get left behind in regards to baseball developing. It's always developing. I think you can have an old school mentality in regards to how your kids play the game. But if you say, I'm just an old school coach, this is how you do things, you really just stop learning. There's always opportunity to learn in this game. And I think it's incredible what people are doing. I just sit there sometimes and go, man, these guys are all in and all in on learning about a swing and learning about this stuff. Learning how to speed up the game. I'm a huge fan of speeding the game up. I hope that happens moving forward to keep up with kids. The information is so accessible that if we don't speed up the game, it's going to get left behind. So I'm a fan of the moving forward. I think it's great. I think that coaches just need to understand how to take all of that information and implement it. Don't just put kids on it and have them start, ripping dingers off the hit tracks and not making them understand any part of the game.
Right.
You got to use that balance with that information.
No, and I would agree with that. And I think there's just disruption in business all over the place. And baseball just happens to be one place where there is disruption, not for everybody, but for the people that, like you said, don't want to progress with it. And you got to see that you got to find the positive in it and use that information. I think that analogy you used with the book. And if you wouldn't read that book, what are you doing? Because the information's out there, so might as well use it. So I think that's a great way to look at analytics. And sometimes you need that simplistic slap across the face to just like wake you up. You're like, you know what, man, that is the way to look at it. And I like that. So I think the people who are in it, because the guy I mentioned before, Dean Jackson, he had an easy way of explaining analytics too. And it's just the same thing. It's just like, just see it for what the good that's in there, and it can help you out. And then marry the two. It's like using the old school tactics with the new methods that exist. That's all we're doing. It's still like social media. All it is building a relationship and having a conversation. You just get to do it with people like we're having right now. You're in Minnesota. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we can have a conversation like this because we met on Instagram of all places. And it's like, we're not having the conversation in Instagram for the rest of our lives. We've taken it to a different level. And so I think that's what's really cool about it. So I mean,
I love it.
Yeah,
you're using the platform.
That's it.
You're using the platform and you can connect with other people. And, the other podcasts I do on the Mind Strong Project that's what it is. It's just connecting with people and trying to learn and just hear what these successful people are doing. And that's why, the second that you said, hey, you want to come on here? I said, absolutely. It's an opportunity for me to learn and talk about what he's doing and what they're doing. And that's how you want to do social media is connect and learn and branch out your network.
That's right. That's absolutely it. Well, what I like is, you just have this passion for what you do, baseball, your business, and everything around it. Even like the nuances of helping a kid with social media. So we get excited about that, and that's why we like I mentioned before, we love talking to entrepreneurs, but those like yourself that have this hunger and the constant thirst to like learn more. I think that's pretty awesome. So I appreciate you sharing those perspectives. This podcast is brought to you by CASCM. CASCM helps you, the entrepreneur, engage with your audience like never before. Most entrepreneurs need help developing business, so that's what we do, business development. We offer you the same techniques that have worked for us. We start with content marketing, which includes storytelling, knowledge sharing, thought leadership, and branding through blogs, podcasts, videos, social media, and personal engagement. This leads to opportunities and relationships for you and your business. What else do you get? A content platform asset that will serve you now and in the future as your industry changes. Why do we do this? Because at CADCM, we love helping entrepreneurs build stuff. What we like to do now is move into the rapid fire round where we just kind of like, throw a bunch of pitches at you, see what you can hit, just answer it how best you can. No right or wrong answers here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, all right, man, let's go. So
I'm a Family Feud guy.
That's right.
So I'm ready.
That's a good show. So who is, in your opinion, the best player in baseball right now?
Got to go Mike Trout. Guy's an absolute stud.
Yeah. I'm sure you've done some traveling in your day with baseball and all other things. What is your favorite city to travel to?
We went out to just Seattle, Washington. We were out in Seattle. Incredible area. Never been anywhere like that. If you get a chance to go.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to see the combination between the water and the city just touching each other.
Yeah.
Had a blast out there.
Yeah. No, we love traveling, so we definitely have to check it out. So maybe it's on the plane ride out to Seattle, but just when you have some downtime, what is your favorite thing to do to kill time?
Oh boy. In the winter, not gonna lie, big movie guy, big movie watcher. In the summer, I'm gonna give my go at golf this year.
Yeah,
that's my new challenge for myself.
Wait.
I'm trying to go from a guy who only gets invited on Saturdays to guy I'm gonna be fun to a guy who gets the Tuesday call.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
It's one or the other, right? Doesn't your golf swing mess up your baseball swing or vice versa? I can't remember which one it is. Or maybe it's both. Maybe they're not good for each other.
Well, as I had said earlier, I went 0 for 14 in my independent league debut, so I should have just started playing golf a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's right. See, we love that. I love the humble attitude. It's the best. All right, so if you weren't working at MASH, what career would you be in?
All three. My mom's a teacher. My two sisters are a teacher. Then we got one outlier who's incredibly smart that works in the medical field. So I'm going to be in the medical field, so I'd be a teacher.
Okay, excellent. So we talked about social media. If you had to pick one today, I know it changed. It could have been something different. It's going to be something different in the future. But what is your one favorite social media app today?
Instagram.
Yeah.
I would say it's not close.
Okay. I think that's a popular one for sure. If you had the choice of reading a book, paperback or hardcover versus using a Kindle or a Kindle app, what would you choose?
Book guy.
Book, okay.
Absolutely a book guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now reading again, or reading or listening, if you could read a blog or listen to a podcast, what would you do?
I'm going to listen to that podcast. I think you just see or you hear what people are really trying to say with the flexion of their voice. I just think you get a better idea of the message.
Yeah. So you walk into a restaurant, and the restaurant, they have a bar that you can sit at, or they have tables that you can sit at. You can only choose one. Which one were you going to choose to sit at?
Bar guy.
Yeah.
That's another cool one.
Yeah. In Minnesota, Minneapolis has the Twin Cities have a lot of those. I've been there. I love the city. Incredible food town, by the way. And great people in that city. It is cold, but again, like I mentioned to you another time, I'm from Buffalo, New York, so I'm used to the cold. I do live in Charlotte, so maybe I'm not as used to it anymore. but it is a great city, and there are a lot of good bars and a very good sports town as well. I got to ask.
It's a great place to live.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this last question, then we bring up another point. But this is the ultimate question. If you could only root for one sports team as a fan, what team would that be?
Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but growing up, you get older, you get a lot of stuff going on in your life, and you start going, I probably shouldn't be invested in cheering for grown men that I don't know. But for whatever reason with the Vikings, I just, every time I watch them, I feel like I'm 10.
Yeah.
Watch them again. So pretty devastated to watch them this year in the NFC Championship.
Yeah, but the week before, like that was the thing I was going to ask before, is you're watching that game and Stefon Diggs, like, the game's over, right? I mean, you had to think this is over, and then that happens.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, I like having people over to, I live with three other guys, so it's a house of four, and we have maybe 35 people in the basement watching the game together. So I wish I didn't have my phone out. I try to not be on my phone when I'm with my friends. But if you could have seen the video in the basement, I bet it would be pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I mean, those moments, there were some videos that came out of Minnesota. You see, like, the reaction. People I think they're at the Minnesota Wild game, and they had the video there and all these different places. But, I mean, we were watching it. I had been out for dinner, came back, had sort of seen it there, caught up on the game, watching it, and, like, you see it happen, and you'd, like, I think I asked my son was there and a couple of his friends. I'm like, wait, did that really just happen right there? That was crazy. Like, I'm a Bills fan, so I remember watching the Music City Miracle when the game was basically over. They kicked it off. All they had to do was tackle them, and they lose the game. And it's oh man, it's the life of, like, a fan like that, like you said. So very cool, man, very cool, Steve. Everything, the passion, the energy, the what you're doing, I think is great. So we appreciate, like, you spending the time talking with us and sharing these insights. Definitely want to, stay in touch more, but appreciate, everything that you've brought to the table today. And thank you for spending the time talking with us.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for reaching out to me. I think it's very cool what you guys are doing and the platform and how you're using it. And I would just say for anyone who wants to, talk not only just about business, but just about life or things that they're doing. I found that talking to basketball, people who coach AAU basketball teams who do other things has been really beneficial for us here. So anyone looking to network, I really appreciate that you've given me and our staff and MASH an opportunity to be a part of this.
Yeah.
So thank you.
What's the best place? Instagram is probably the best place to reach you and maybe direct message. What's the best account to go to for you?
Yep, if you go at Minnesota MASH, at MASH Performance, we have some very cool videos there, or I think it's at Coach Steve. I'm not even sure. Steve McGuiggan. Any of those will work. Reach out. Jake, who runs our MASH Performance handle, does an incredible job as well. So thank you for that, too.
Yeah.
Get those follows up. Let's go.
Yeah, what's that?
Help us get those followers up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're gonna put that in the show notes too. So you just click, send it. We'll send them right over to Instagram or right over to whatever different accounts that you guys have. So we'll make sure that anyone listening this far into the podcast has easy access to that. So Steve, once again, thank you for your time, for your energy. It was great chatting with you.
I appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Keep doing great things.
You got it. Steve, it was absolutely awesome having you on this podcast. From the experience you bring in the sports world to your journey running a business, we're all better off for taking some time to learn from you. The perspectives from Steve on self-improvement and development are now perspectives you as a business owner and entrepreneur can use for yourself. And for that, Steve, thank you. And for any entrepreneur or individual with questions on all things baseball and training, feel free to reach out to Steve. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can contact me on Twitter at Eric_Kaz or with the same name on Instagram. Or you can find us at KazSource.com with links to us on the different social networks. Thank you for listening to our KazSource podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time. Until next time, we're out of here. This podcast exists in large part because of KazCM, the content marketing business inside KazSource Inc. KazCM is excited to bring the content marketing services used at KazSource to you. Learn more by visiting KazCM.com. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It's a big deal to us. We hope you found value in it, and if you did, we would be incredibly grateful if you gave us a review on iTunes. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, and feel free to share it with anyone you know. More than anything, thank you again for listening. We appreciate it.